Yo, YouTube, what is good, bruv gang, what is good, and we are back with another video. As we all know, 2023 has been a year stacked full of JRPG releases. With the recent influx of JRPGs hitting the shelves, it's been amazing to see so many newcomers and casual fans alike taking more of an interest in the genre. With that being said, I thought this would be a perfect time to share with you guys 5 JRPGs I feel are perfect for newcomers. No Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch. When we talk about newcomer friendly JRPGs, the No Kuni games are always games that come to mind immediately. Now personally, I did want to include both games on this list, as I feel No Kuni 2 is another game that is very newcomer friendly and offers another unique experience with a story separate from the first. But I felt out of the two, I enjoyed the first No Kuni game more than the second, and it's definitely a game I still recommend to newer fans to this day. With a beautiful art direction by legendary animator Studio Ghibli and a beautiful, charming, well written story and a cast of extremely likeable characters, the No Kuni games are just so beautiful to look at and play through, it almost feels like you're playing through and watching a Studio Ghibli film. Better known by its full title, No Kuni Wrath of the White Witch, the story follows a boy named Oliver, who must travel to another world to save a great sage who has a spiritual connection to his mother. He is accompanied by a sprite named Jrpgs who appeared in the form of a doll. So with a brief overview of the story out the way, let's move on to the battle system. The battle system in No Kuni is essentially a hybrid between real-time combat with turn-based elements. The combat in No Kuni is super easy to get into, and I just felt fit the whole aesthetic of the game. The Studio Ghibli aesthetic gives the game an easing, comforting feeling when you pick it up and play it, making combat not too difficult of a challenge, meaning newcomers can get straight into it. So for those familiar with Pokemon games, the creature collecting aspect of the game will be very welcoming to see. So in No Kuni, the Pokemon-like creatures are referred to as familiars. Not the most creative name I know, but each character is able to have up to 3 familiars in their immediate party with another 3 additional familiars as backups. Again, very similar to the concept of Pokemon having a full party of 6. So in No Kuni, familiars are essentially the main attraction of combat, with familiars again, just like Pokemon, being able to metamorphose or evolve into larger and stronger familiars, with most familiars having 3 stages to their metamorphosis. One thing I personally loved about No Kuni was the creature collecting aspect of the game. I felt it made the game a lot more addictive to play, making you want to go out and collect as many familiars as you could and get the best possible familiars the game had to offer, very similar to how Pokemon essentially had that pull of making you want to catch them all. Now No Kuni is not going to blow you away story wise, but does a great job with its beautiful Studio Ghibli inspired animation, art design and simplistic yet addictive combat and charming characters to keep you engaged throughout. I feel No Kuni is the perfect game for newcomers to get into. Ys, Memories of Celceta. These series of games have always been games from day one that I've always recommended, and I've had nothing but positive feedback when newcomers try out these games for the first time. Following the adventures of the beloved red-haired hero Adol Christian and his crew, these series of games make for some of the most fun experiences you'll have in a JRPG. From its fluid action-based combat to its incredible OST and its amazingly well done cast of likeable characters, the stories in each Ys game seem to get better and better with each passing game. Now personally, my favourite Ys game in the series is Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana, which I've probably talked to death about on this channel and I probably will never get tired of doing so, with Ys 9 being a close second. So the one thing that I absolutely love about Ys games is the fact that you can start absolutely anywhere. Each game is its own standalone adventure, with each game bringing new and returning mechanics alike. So when it comes to recommending a Ys game for newcomers to play, I feel we are so spoilt for choice in terms of the amount of games that we have to choose from in the series. Of course, my main picks will always be Ys 8 and Ys 9, but when it comes to recommending a game for newcomers, Ys Memories of Celceta has always been the one that stood out for me the most. So for me personally, I first played Ys Memories of Celceta on the PS Vita back in 2014 and was immediately blown away by the story. Now side note, the game does take place a year after the events of Ys 2 and about a year before Ys the Felghana, but trust me, you can enjoy this game 100% without having played those 2 games, and as I said before, these stories are all standalone and won't get in the way of your enjoyment of the series. I think the one thing that I absolutely love about Ys games, and Ys Memories of Celceta especially, is the pacing of the story and how it gets you hooked in immediately. The main character Adol Christian awakens in the unfamiliar land of Celceta, remembering nothing more than his own name. That alone is enough to have the player hooked from the jump, just making you want to know how he lost his memories and where the game's adventure is going to take you. So aside from the story, the one thing that Ys games are famously known for is the fast food action combat. It's super newcomer friendly with no over the top complex mechanics, and as mentioned before, most mechanics do carry over from game to game, meaning any new Ys game you can pick up and play with no troubles. So the main appeal I feel of the Ys games is the ability to pick up and play no matter your gaming level. Whether it's your first action RPG or your 100th, the Ys games cater to all types of playstyles and is a big reason why I always recommend the series to newcomers. Dragon Quest XI. Dragon Quest has always been long considered the grandfather of all JRPGs and inspired a lot of our favourite JRPGs we see today. So when it comes to recommending a place to start with Dragon Quest games for newcomers, my first thoughts are always, is it modern? Does it have that classic Dragon Quest charm with modern day graphics and mechanics? And my first thought is always, yes, there is one game and it's always Dragon Quest XI that comes to mind. Over the years, Dragon Quest for me has always been one of those JRPG franchises that have been so easy for me to recommend, and with the release of Dragon Quest XI back in 2017, it just made it 10 times more easier. For me, aside from Dragon Quest 5, 8 and 9, Dragon Quest XI for me is the perfect game. It has, as mentioned, that Dragon Quest charm which wears its heart on its sleeve throughout the game, with amazing animation work and that beautiful art style from legendary Dragon Ball creator Akira Toriyama. The one thing I think I've always respected about the Dragon Quest games is the fact that they've never steered too far away from what makes Dragon Quest, well, Dragon Quest. I think it just makes it so much easier to recommend the game to newer fans of the series. Without steering too far from its roots, Dragon Quest XI develops that classic turn-based combat we all know and love, without adding over complex mechanics and keeping that balance of challenge and exploration which is perfect for newcomers. Something that I absolutely adore in Dragon Quest XI is the story and characters, and it's one thing that is a big drawing for me and is the reason why I recommend this game so highly to newcomers. You grow such a deep bond on your 50-hour plus journey travelling the world with your party. When recommending Dragon Quest XI in the past to newer fans, I always thought the length of the game would put people off. With such a fun and easy to get into combat and gameplay loop, and a brilliant story to boot, and as mentioned a great cast of characters, Dragon Quest XI is simply a game that is so hard to put down. Dragon Quest XI is the perfect game for newcomers of the series and JRPGs in general to get into, and is a game I cannot recommend enough. Tales of Vesperia. The Tales of series are all individually amazing in their own right, with some being, well, let's just say disappointing. Tales of Vesperia, I'm looking at you. But all jokes aside, the Tales of series has some incredible games within it, with the vast majority of the games for the most part being standalone. Personally, I have so many fond memories of playing through the Tales series of games over the years, but one game I always find myself running back to is Tales of Vesperia. Tales of Vesperia for me is such a well done game from its beautiful art style, and for me, Vesperia has the best art style in the whole series aside from the Elusive games. Tales of Vesperia just has this beautiful charm about it, with a great cast of characters accompanying you throughout your journey, not to mention how well designed and cool the main character Yuri is with his trusted sidekick Jrpgs. Tales of Vesperia is considered to have some of the best combat in the whole series, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. The combat in the Tales series of games is essentially a cross between action combat and real-time combat, with the emphasis being mainly on stringing together combos and being able to dodge enemy attacks to keep combo strings going. Tales of combat may feel a little overwhelming to newcomers on certain entries in the series, but I always felt Vesperia did a perfect job not making combat too overwhelming, especially to newcomers of the series, meaning they could learn different mechanics slowly throughout while they got comfortable with the initial gameplay loop. I think nowadays, most people would recommend getting into Tales of Arise, which is a great game in its own right and is of course the more modern of the two games, but I do feel Tales of Arise does have a degree of challenge to it, and most likely wouldn't be beginner friendly as opposed to Tales of Vesperia. So with that being said, Tales of Vesperia is a perfect entry for all newcomers to the series to get into, and is a perfect entry point to start your Tales of journey. Valkyria Chronicles. There are not very many games that I've recommended over the years more to newcomers of JRPGs more than Valkyria Chronicles. For me personally, the series as a whole is criminally underrated and more people 100% need to check it out. So Valkyria Chronicles is essentially a military themed tactical RPG with an anime type aesthetic. The one thing you will immediately notice is the beautiful watercolor art style during cutscenes and chapters, and it looks as if you are being told a war story from a book. Valkyria Chronicles has always had amazing gameplay mechanics, being able to take control of your squadron and units with the use of command points, with each unit being allowed to move within a certain amount of distance within a bar that's being shown on the screen. The game is super easy to pick up and play and understand right from the very jump. The one thing that I absolutely love about Valkyria Chronicles is the compelling war story, but it's told in such a charming way with an incredibly likeable cast of characters. The game will have you attached to each character right from the very beginning right to the very end. Combat in Valkyria Chronicles is one thing that will keep you hooked on the game, with each mission varying in different objectives, meaning you won't just be able to deploy troops and run through each mission. The game incorporates a steady balanced system where each set of troopers are weak to one another. I found it so fun to understand what was weak to what, meaning you can take advantage of this in battle, and it felt so rewarding when playing. So if this is your first experience of a tactical RPG, Valkyria Chronicles for me has always seemed like the perfect place to start. It's very welcoming to newcomers with no insanely deep gameplay mechanics and makes for that perfect blend of fun combat and story that really draws you in, making it the perfect JRPG for newcomers. So that'll do it for this video guys. I really appreciate you guys for watching. I'd really love to know some of the JRPGs you feel are perfect for newcomers, so please let me know down below in the comments. Also, I just want to say a big thank you for all your patience you guys have shown this past month. I've been keeping you guys updated in the community tab, so be sure to be on the lookout for that with any further updates as well. Of course, we know this past month has been super busy for me with work as well, but I just want to say a big thank you to you guys for sticking by me, sticking by the channel and showing the video so much love. So with that being said, please like, sub, share if you're new, hit that notification bell so you get notified of my videos first, and I hope I can be you guys' #1 source for all JRPG news. So from me too, this has been your bruv, D Big Bruv, and I'm gonna catch you guys on the next video. I'm out. Peace.